NFL players are some of the highest paid professionals in the United States. They can make tens of millions of dollars a year and should be set for the rest of their lives. However, what some people find surprising is the fact that over 70% of NFL players end up bankrupt just a few years after leaving the league. High-flying lifestyles and a tendency to pay an entourage means their football money dries up quickly. Obviously, the NFL is trying to fix this with their financial advisor program and pushing players to spend more responsibly, but a majority of NFL players will end up broke soon after leaving the league. Hi, I'm Jake with FootballLore, and today I wanted to go over some of the NFL players who blew the most money in their quest to bankruptcy. Some of the people on this list have literally blown over $100 million, and while they are still some of the most iconic players on the field, their financial spending is not something they'll ever be in the Hall of Fame for. Press the like button if you enjoy NFL videos like this. It helps us in the algorithm, and we're trying to hit 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year. The first player I want to talk about is none other than Texas legend Vince Young. Coming out of Texas, Young was thought to be the next NFL phenom. He had thrown for over 6,000 yards at Texas, and the Titans would select him with the third overall pick of the 2006 NFL Draft. Young's rookie contract was an eye-watering $58 million, with $26 million of that guaranteed. He did go on to win Rookie of the Year, but soon found himself being considered a decent quarterback and being relegated to the backup role in Tennessee. In 2011, he was released by the Titans, and he signed another contract with the Eagles. This was a one-year, $4 million contract with a $2 million signing bonus and another $2 million guaranteed. He didn't last long in Philly before making one more stop in Buffalo before spending another year in the CFL. Throughout his career, he made more than $30 million. And this doesn't include his endorsements or sponsorships. He had been on the cover of Madden, had high jersey sales, and was a popular athlete for athletic brands to partner with. Off the field, Young had been spending money like it was going out of style. He had been working with a financial planner, but out of the $30 million he made, he had invested just $5.5 million. This came to a head in 2012 when it was reported he was defaulting on a $1.9 million payday loan. Young claimed that this loan had been fraudulently created, but his signature on the agreement had been notarized in Philadelphia. This same year, he filed a lawsuit against his financial advisor, claiming that they had stolen most of the $6 million he had given them. Young's attorney even ended up making a statement that Vince Young needed a job when he was asked about the state of his finances. Obviously, the financial advisor situation needed to play out in court, but it isn't uncommon for NFL players to claim they were misguided when it came to investments. While all of this was being aired out to the public, it was also discovered that Young had made an additional $30 million from his deals with Reebok, Madden, Campbell's Soup, and Vizio. Young himself admits that a lot of his financial problems came from his lavish spending on luxury items. I love luxury items as much as the next guy, but we can agree it hits a point where it becomes irresponsible. Young probably thought he was on his way to more huge starting quarterback paydays, and when his career didn't pan out, his earnings were much lower than expected. I'm sure coming off of Rookie of the Year, he really thought this was the start of an all-pro career. He began to spend like his rookie $59 million deal was going to be the smallest contract he ever received. It's a very common problem athletes have. They don't realize they are in their prime and need to save for when their body isn't able to put up with the abuse anymore. In 2014, he filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in Houston, but he later retracted this after a settlement was reached from the lawsuits with his agent and financial advisors. This hasn't been the end of Young's troubles, but most of them haven't been financially related. He has been arrested for DWI twice in Texas, but seems to have stabilized his financial life. While I can understand being caught up in a high-flying lifestyle, blowing through $60 million seems almost impossible. Some of the things he was spending on are unreal too. He reportedly was spending over $5,000 a week at the Cheesecake Factory. He also bought all of the tickets on a Southwest flight to be his own private jet. He did manage to right his ship though, and I want to give him a lot of credit for that. He started broadcasting in Texas, started a trucking business, a real estate firm, and even has his own steakhouse as well. Some NFL players let their squandering of NFL wealth mean the absolute end of their money-making journey. We do have to give credit to Young for being willing to rebuild his empire even after a $25 million bankruptcy. Sometimes NFL players aren't really robbed, but instead think they are some type of financial wizard capable of making investments like Warren Buffett. Demontti Dawson played center for the Pittsburgh Steelers after a career at Kentucky. He was so good he even went on to be inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2012. He was a tank on the field and started 99% of all of the games he played in through his career, and was savvy enough to start investing a large portion of his NFL earnings into real estate through his career. He had found many investors through the Pittsburgh area to partner with on real estate deals and development. This is a proven path to wealth, but one thing Demontti did was use leverage to make these purchases. This means he needed the tenants to pay rent and the property value to increase in order to make a profit. Without those payments, he wouldn't be able to make payments on the loan, and if this went on for a while, he would potentially face defaults on those loans. Some of his partnerships were in a position where they were very over-leveraged and needed miracles in terms of returns to be profitable. While Demontti had managed to amass a nearly $70 million fortune at some point, no one was able to escape the 2008 recession. The 2008 recession hit the country hard, but especially hit the real estate sector and the Rust Belt where a lot of his real estate was located. The economy cratered and rents dropped alongside property values. The city of Pittsburgh was especially hit hard, and it became difficult to find tenants who would be able to keep up with their bills. This was a dangerous situation as a real estate investor, and he was one of the casualties of the worldwide recession that occurred that year. He was soon faced with several lawsuits related to the money he had invested. Some were as high as $3.5 million. Obviously, with the state of the economy, there was nowhere to pull money from, and banks were not willing to lend further money to struggling businesses. This left Demontti with nowhere to turn and filed for bankruptcy in 2010. When he filed, he reported that he had debts of nearly $70 million, but his assets were now worth just $1.4 million. This left him in a huge hole that the bankruptcy courts didn't know how to fill. His assets were taken, and he was forced to restart even as an NFL Hall of Famer. He moved to San Diego, California, where he still lives to this day, working as a sales executive for a promotional products company in the local area. While he was able to land on his feet, there is no doubt that he looks back on his real estate investments and wishes he would have dug a bit deeper to verify that everything was on solid footing. You can't blame him too much though, considering the 2008 financial crisis was one of the biggest economic crises the nation has ever seen. Even some of the largest investment banks on the planet were taken out during the crisis, so expecting every investor who had built up millions in real estate to avoid it would be crazy. Dawson was smart enough to realize he should use his NFL money to get himself paid off the field, which is a lot more than most players can say. It just is unfortunate to lose such a massive fortune after being so wise from an early age. I'm sure being a sales executive is a pretty solid situation though. Next, I want to talk about Deuce McCallister. He was the centerpiece of the New Orleans Saints for over 7 seasons. He had come into the 2001 draft after a solid career at Ole Miss, and was taken with the 23rd overall pick as a result. He had signed a 6-year, $7 million contract with a $3 million signing bonus as a rookie, and when he rushed for over 1,000 yards for the next several years, he was rewarded with a huge $50 million contract in 2005. This had a $7 million signing bonus, but just 5 games into his deal, he would tear his ACL. Within 3 years of leaving the league, he found himself on bankruptcy's door. He had invested his money into a Nissan dealership in Jackson, Mississippi. Opening a car dealership is not cheap, and reportedly dealership fees can be in the millions. He had invested over $7 million into the car dealership and had spent most of his other fortunes on the usual trappings of the league like cars, homes, and luxury items that don't hold their value. He was really hoping that his dealership would be a success and keep his financial house in order so he could continue to live his high-flying lifestyle. The issue was that the car dealership game was also facing an uphill battle in 2009. The bad economy totally decimated demand for any vehicles. It also was the case that a lot of the consumers who were purchasing cars were losing their jobs and would default on the car loans, leaving McCallister in bad standing with Nissan. In 2009, it was announced by Nissan that McCallister owed over $7 million to their franchising division due to him exceeding and defaulting on his credit line. This was not his only car dealership, as he was operating one in Jacksonville too, but he soon filed for bankruptcy to protect his inventory while he scrambled for an investor to bring in more capital. He wasn't able to find an investor, and the rest of his money dried up while in the middle of a legal battle. In 2011, his house was auctioned after he defaulted on his $1.8 million mortgage amongst his battle with Nissan. The sheriff's office proceeded with the auction of the house, and it did not sell for more than $1 million. In 2012, he was ordered to pay Nissan a settlement to help solve the issue with the dealership, but in 2013, they sued him yet again, claiming that he had not paid the settlement since the verdict. As of now, he appears to be working for a Fox affiliate and trying to get his life back in order since this financial disaster. Another iconic Hall of Famer that managed to squander his wealth is none other than the Golden Arm himself, Johnny Unitas. While Unitas played early in the league's history, he did have a long 17-year career. At first, earnings were not very high, but by the end, he was getting paid up to $2 million a year when adjusted for inflation. Unitas is obviously a Colts legend who was able to become an early NFL icon and influence the game even to this day. After he retired, he decided to get into the business world and dive headstrong into investments and owning his own properties. It seemed like he wasn't able to take that football talent to the business world. Over the years, he tried his hand at a nearly endless list of different businesses. He owned a freight company, a real estate firm, bowling alleys, restaurants, and more. But it seemed like everything he invested in would fail shortly after. While he was still making endorsement money, most of this was going straight to financing his bad investments off the field. The ultimate worst investment Unitas made came when he borrowed over $3 million to buy an electronics company he wanted to move to Baltimore. The only issue was, instead of the loan being in a company name, he had personally guaranteed the loan. When the company failed to live up to expectations, Unitas was on the hook for millions, and the bank put liens on his personal bank accounts and even his personal home. In 1991, Unitas filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in an attempt to restructure his debt to hang on to his personal home. This left him with a monster debt he owed to the financiers of his multiple attempts to break into the business world, and he would spend the remainder of his life making payments on this debt until he passed away in 2002. After he passed, there was no one to be held liable for the sizable debt he had racked up with credits. Instead of it being passed to his next of kin or to the other partners who had signed onto the loan, it was dissipated at the hands of the Maryland taxpayers. That's right, if you live in the state of Maryland, technically, your taxes helped pay for the debt of Johnny Unitas. So if you ever feel like giving yourself a direct tie to the NFL, just say you helped personally finance some of Johnny Unitas' off-field business ventures. Don't go into detail about how none of them worked out because that isn't as impressive, but it will sound cool at a party to someone who has no clue what you're talking about. Mark Brunell played in the NFL for 19 years. He had come out of Washington as a 5th-round pick in 1993, but soon proved he had what it took to be an NFL quarterback. He is in the Jacksonville Jaguars Hall of Fame, and in the NFL threw for over 30,000 yards and 184 touchdowns. He won a Super Bowl with the Saints as a backup and really did have an incredible career, especially for a 5th-round draft pick. Few expected to make any waves in the league at all. Over the course of his career, he was obviously paid pretty handsomely for his on-the-field efforts, especially as a quarterback. In his first year, he signed a small contract with the Packers of $300,000, but this jumped to $3 million a few years later when he signed with the Jaguars. After his great performance in 1995, he received a massive $30 million contract with $25 million paid out, followed by an extension that saw him make $21 million. He made $16 million on the Redskins his first year, before making an additional $7 million over his career as a backup with several teams. Overall, he made well over $50 million through the course of his NFL career. That certainly is not a bad chunk of change, but he really loved to spend it. He was known for buying huge mega mansions for himself, including one home he spent over $9 million on. Much like Demontti earlier on our list, he also was big on investing into real estate, but used the same plan of leveraging debt to buy more properties while using them to pay for the loans. When the 2008 financial crisis hit, it was clear he was in a world of hurt, and while he still was playing backup in the NFL at the time, he had racked up over $11 million in debt through his various real estate investments that had been supposed supposed to make money instead. He also had managed to lose $9 million in a failed fast food franchise that was supposed to have paid out handsomely. The situation was so bad that even before he had retired from the NFL, he had already taken a job as a medical device salesman to help bring some income into his home. He knew the NFL money was largely gone, and it must have been weird to still be getting NFL checks and know it didn't matter because your debt had ballooned so much. Before he retired, he had already begun to think that bankruptcy might be the easiest way out of the mess he had created for himself. In 2011, just after retiring, he declared bankruptcy. He had just $6 million in assets against over $25 million worth of debt. He restructured his debt and began to make payments on the millions he owed to creditors. In 2021, he was hired by the Detroit Lions as their quarterback coach, where he still is employed today, and it seems like he has gotten his financial world back on track. He still owes creditors, I'm sure, but at least he's back around football and able to make money doing what he loves, even if he did blow through over $50 million. That is such an unbelievable amount of money to burn through, I still can't believe it. Warren Sapp was a defensive superstar. Few people were able to control the game on the defense the way he was. He played for 12 seasons with both Tampa Bay and Oakland and had nearly 100 career sacks. He won Defensive Player of the Year in 1999 and even won a Super Bowl in 2002. His career at Miami was equally impressive, and he was drafted with the 12th overall pick in the 1995 NFL Draft. He was actually supposed to have been a top 5 pick originally, but wound up testing positive for everyone's favorite white powder and plant before the NFL Draft. His rookie contract saw him making just over $1 million a year, and he soon adjusted to a luxury lifestyle like most NFL players do. He was spending thousands on rugs, coffee tables, jewelry, houses, and all of this quickly depleted his NFL earnings. In 1998, he signed a huge $36 million extension with the Buccaneers, but soon inflated his lifestyle to match the $5 more million a year he was making on the field. When he left Tampa to move to Oakland, it came with another $36 million payday, but he wouldn't play out the entire deal, leading to him only walking away with $20 million instead. This doesn't include any of his sponsorship deals or other off-the-field businesses he had income from. After retiring, he started to have financial troubles almost immediately. In 2010, just 3 years after leaving the league, he was sued by PNC Bank, and the court awarded them a $1 million judgment against Sapp. This was followed by the IRS saying he owed them nearly $1 million in back taxes, alongside another $1 million behind in alimony and child support. This was not his only debt, with other debts being listed to friends, attorneys, and a speech therapist as well. In 2012, he filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy and claimed to have lost most of valuable football memorabilia through his career. His bank accounts reportedly had less than $1,000 inside, and he owned no automobiles. As a result, they confiscated his home and started to garner almost 80% of his NFL Network salary. His home was auctioned off as a result of his debts, and it was sold for $2.9 million in 2012. Since then, he has launched a podcast, written a book, been a judge on several TV shows, and now also works in limited broadcasting roles with his alma mater at the U. Overall, he is another guy who managed to blow through nearly $50 million in total career earnings, which is just an insane amount of money to blow through without making any wise investments. The next player I want to talk about is Deuce McCallister. He had played college football at the University of Arizona, and as a corner was a shutdown player who changed the play of the offense. He was an All-Pac-10 player for 3 straight years, and when it came time to the draft, he was selected by the Baltimore Ravens with the 10th pick of the 1999 NFL Draft. He signed a 4-year, $6 million contract as a rookie, with the entire contract being paid out as he turned into an absolute cornerstone of the elite Ravens defense. He even had a key interception for a touchdown in the Ravens' victory during Super Bowl 35. Obviously, the Ravens were going to let him play out his rookie deal on a low salary, and even after that, they franchise tagged him twice for an additional $6 million paid out to Chris. In 2004, he got his big payday when he signed a 6-year, $50 million contract he ended up receiving $37 million from. From here, he played out most of the contract with the Ravens before his contract was terminated in 2009, and he signed as a corner with the Saints. He didn't end up playing for them long and earned just $150,000 with the team and walked away with a total earnings of over $60 million through his career. Once again, this doesn't include any of his off-the-field earnings, so realistically, after 11 seasons, his earnings could have been as high as $75 million. He retired from the game after this season and was literally unemployed since retiring from pro football. While he was an NFL player, he had fallen into the same trappings as everyone else, buying houses for everyone, spending on an insane lifestyle, and making risky investments that didn't pay off. Things got so bad he even had to report to the court that he had literally no income and had moved back into his parents' house. He did this to try to lower his child support payment at the time. Usually in these situations, more is known about just how exactly they squandered such insane career earnings, but not too much is known about how he specifically managed to blow through such an insane fortune. I think buying multiple mansions and cars is a good way to burn through $10 million, but spending over $60 million on that stuff seems impossible. I guess that's just because I've never tried hard enough. I should take out my life savings and head to Vegas when I finish this video. The last player I want to talk about today is Travis Henry. He played college football in Tennessee and was seen by many to be a solid running back with the potential to be a secondary back. He was drafted in the second round by the Buffalo Bills and actually went on to be a breakout star with the team. His rookie contract was a $2 million deal, and he signed an extension in 2003 worth $10 million after rushing for over 1,400 yards in his breakout 2002 season. He was traded to the Titans in 2005, but had another 1,000-yard season in 2006 before testing free agency to get his big payday before hanging up his cleats. The Broncos signed him to a 5-year, $22 million contract in 2007. However, he wouldn't end up receiving most of that money. He was suspended in 2008 as a result of failing a drug test and violating the league's substance abuse policy. The Broncos released him shortly after, and just 3 months after being released from the Broncos, he was arrested by the DEA for allegedly being the money man in an interstate drug trafficking ring in Colorado. Even though he had made over $10 million in his career, it didn't stop him from pretty much becoming the kingpin of a criminal enterprise. The court case painted him as a ruthless money guy who was key to the operation. He went on trial with a possible sentence of 10 years to life, but ended up reaching a plea deal in 2009, and instead was sentenced to 3 years in federal prison as a result of his crime. Originally, he was going to be fined $4 million for being the financier of the operation, but when the court looked into it, they realized he was already broke. The court actually decided not to fine him because he wasn't going to be able to afford it anyways. He served a majority of his prison sentence and was released in August of 2012. While he was undergoing his trial, he was also charged with not making child support payments. The NFL actually reinstated him in 2012, but by that point, no NFL team was willing to take the chance on Henry. The man does still have the debt of child support looming over his head. He has 11 children with 10 different women, and each of them are claimants to child support. Allegedly, his child support payments total over $170,000 a year. Since getting out of jail, he now works a normal job and still has some involvement with the Tennessee football program. Honestly, I feel like since he's been able to keep his hands clean since getting out of prison, it's good he's been able to re-enter society and keep a normal job. I do think situations like this are especially sad because he had such a golden opportunity in front of him and just couldn't turn away from what he thought would be an exciting life of crime. That is some of the NFL players who have managed to blow millions through their lives. This was a fun video to make, and there are a ton more players who have also managed to destroy their fortune. If this video manages to get 500 likes, then I will actually make a follow-up with even more players who have experienced similar situations. If you want to leave a comment, it really does help us with the algorithm, and we'd appreciate it because we're trying to hit 10,000 subscribers this year and would really love your help in the journey. Our last video was one about why the Oilers abandoned Houston, so be sure to check it out. Thank you so much for watching.